I know I am absolutely gaga and crazy about Toastmasters, but I am not in four clubs. Tell me, when you have the opportunity of visiting any club that you want for $60, why would you go and pay 240 to be a member of four clubs?
For each and every one of them, they serve a purpose for my own personal development. Of
Ooh.
course.
Hello, dear listeners. CoachBusi is back, and I'm never alone, as you well know. Today, I have somebody who makes me calm. So, today, I won't be too much off my because she is a very calm, collected, and very interesting Toastmaster. Please help me welcome to Toast Talks with CoachBusi. We are having the pleasure of having Toastmaster Tsitsi Mpofu. Toastmaster Tsitsi, welcome.
Thank you, Madam CoachBusi. What honor to be here. I've heard good things about this talk show.
Oh, Tsitsi, it has been so interesting. The guests are just top notch, and I have the pleasure of adding you onto this list of 100 guests that I'm going to be interviewing. So thank you so much. You know, time is something that is really, really expensive these days. If you can pin someone to give you 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and their answer is a resounding yes, let's just nail down the exact time, you know you are running with a good crowd. And when I asked you, all we needed to do was to zero in on that time for the recording. So, a heartfelt appreciation, not just from me, but from the listeners who'll be watching this. Toastmaster Tsitsi, you've been a Toastmaster for 5 years. Would you care to walk us through your journey from when you started, how you started, the club, and any other interesting tidbit you might want to share with us?
Do we have the whole night?
I may have to interject and stop you at some point. So,
Oh, thank you, CoachBusi. Actually, I joined more than 5 years ago. It's just that I cannot put the exact number to it. But anyway, we'll get there.
here you go.
You know, my story is very different from the majority of the members that joined Toastmasters. Either somebody referred them to the club. I happened to have come across it through an audiobook that I was listening to that mentioned Toastmasters.
Oh,
Interesting, isn't it?
that is interesting. That's a first. I've not heard that one. That is a first.
And I went searching. I went online and I found my home club, drove myself to the place, introduced myself, and I've never turned back ever since.
Good Lord. What book was that?
I just remember that it was by John Canfield, Jack Canfield.
Okay.
Who mentioned Toastmasters for public speaking. What had happened prior to listening to that audiobook was a group of women, entrepreneur go-getters, had invited me to be part of their facilitating team for customer relations training program. I got intrigued. By that time, I had started my entrepreneur endeavors. So out of curiosity and mindset of adventure, I said, of course, I can do this. Somehow these ladies didn't find it necessary to train me, which to me, to this day, I question why. Now that I know what I know about training and human beings, we all must be trained for any role, no matter our credentials, right?
Now, you know what? I need you to repeat that because that is so important. People think because we can talk, we can all do things like public speaking and MC.
Yeah.
Repeat that. We need to
No,
be.
trained for any new attempts, any new opportunities. People must be trained, or at least orientation might be
Mhm.
necessary, must be necessary, not to just assume they've got it all figured out without walking them through the necessary details of the function. So
Mhm.
that's what happened to me. With confidence, I stepped onto the podium. It was a corporate, and I remember Coach Busi, it was a horseshoe setup.
Oh.
I had watched the other ladies who were seniors, also age wise, in this field of customer service arena. So I had been watching them and observing how they were doing, and I figured that, of course, I can do that. As far as appearance, dressing for the occasion was concerned,
Mhm.
looked the part from
Top
head,
notch.
of course. And I believe that even I remember, I think my husband made a comment on the way I was looking on that day.
Mhm.
That was a bit
Mhm.
of confidence. Little did I know that dressing has nothing to do with speaking. So when it was my turn, I walked in with confidence. When I stood up and stopped in front of the audience and noticed that all eyes were on me, my mind left the room.
Mhm.
I just went blank, went blank. I paused, looked at everyone. I don't remember what I said, but I remember mumbling. If you ask me, I think at that time I probably spoke in tongues and languages.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I quickly handed over the podium and sat down. If I would say I wanted the ground to swallow me and never spew me out ever again, it's an understatement.
Wow.
I wanted to disappear and the whole earth disappear with me.
Mm. Mm.
That's so bad. When I got home, my husband was waiting for me in the driveway, excited to
Of
hear
course.
about it. I just collapsed on his chest and I was like, oh, it was horrible.
Oh.
What happened? I messed up. I couldn't even remember what I needed to say. So I said nothing. Oh my word. From that day I knew I need help.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the wisdom. You knew you needed help. The number of people who then don't follow through and
Yes.
get the help they need is actually quite frightening because I've seen people do what you said
Mhm.
once and then give them a little more time. They come back and they repeat the same interesting delivery up until they're so comfortable with this very lukewarm, very uninspiring way of communicating and
Yes.
delivering speeches. Sadly, Tsitsi, it happens a lot more the higher people go. Because as executives, people then think, well, what else are you going to do? You
Yeah.
you have to listen to me. And I'm
Yes.
thinking, actually,
No.
I'm a Toastmaster. If you are going to use some of my time, I need to know it's worthwhile listening to you. Now,
Mhm.
I'd like to differ with you a little bit where you said that dressing has nothing to do with talking. It
Okay.
actually does. It actually does in my book. But what I heard you say is it's not the only thing to focus on.
I had worked hard on my appearance, CoachBusi, so I thought I had it all figured out.
Now you just forgot that with this fine outfit is going
Yeah,
to be the eloquence to
yeah,
make the delivery and complete the package.
absolutely.
Sounds like you had baked, you had prepared the icing for a cake, but you'd forgotten that the cake itself, the main thing, needs
Yeah,
to be of top quality.
yeah, absolutely.
So, how
Absolutely.
long did it take you after that very interesting and inspiring presentation?
Uh, exactly, I cannot remember, but coinc coincidentally, that encounter in itself was the beginning of my journey for self-development. The fact that I had hooked up with these ladies and wanting to be part of this is because I was searching for such opportunities to grow myself beyond what I had accepted as the the way of doing things.
Right.
So I became even more hungry. So I listened to more books and kept on working on myself. Then
Mhm.
eventually came across that book that made me realize that, okay, this is where I can find help as far as public speaking and effective communication is concerned. So here we are today. I've never,
Love it.
yeah,
One of the joys I have from hosting this podcast is getting to hear all these stories because everybody's story is different. And
yeah,
my heart is such that people get inspired when they hear a story that may be close to theirs or totally opposite from this, but it triggers some interest in knowing about this organization that has been around for 100 years and has made
yes,
such an impact on a lot of us. Now,
yes.
since that delivery, having the supportive husband whose arms you fell into, whose chest you wet as you got over this disastrous night, what has since happened? Have you had other opportunities to present, and how are those coming up?
Oh my word. Earlier on, I had asked if we had the whole night. This time, should I ask if we have the whole week without
You've been
sleep?
busy.
A lot has happened.
Mhm.
I cannot begin to tell you how transformative this has been.
Mhm.
I'll probably pick the one incident out of the many of them that I can share on this platform.
Right.
It was several years ago where I was called in my profession to do a presentation based on the concept that we were pitching to a client. Now, unknown to me, there were other fellow contenders who were invited to this meeting as well. Initially, I thought, oh, okay, they were directly speaking to me, and I should be the only company who's going to present this. Only to learn that there were seasoned designers, some who were coming from South Africa to be
Uh-huh.
part of this. Yes. So I took my time to prepare for the presentation. Upon getting there, now for most, I must mention that for most of my projects, most of my client opportunities that I've received, it has been either a few of the top decision makers in an organization whom I will interface with um, as well as doing presentations too. Or it will be the owner of the property or the premises or a husband and a wife team, not more than 4 people at any given time. With this incident in particular, I walked into the boardroom where I was going to present, only to be met by not less than 15 executives in that meeting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'm intrigued.
15, not less than 15, right? And each and every one of them were representing a department. So they were solely focusing in the one area that they had been assigned to focus on. So that was a shocker for me, besides realizing that they're also contenders for the same opportunity. Right. Upon getting to the front to start preparing for my presentation, the usher who then had received me, said to me, "You are not going to present from your laptop. We kindly ask you that you put your presentation on the flash stick and transfer it to our laptop." Now, it's one to prepare on your own machine, right? Especially iOS and Microsoft platforms.
Yep.
I transferred the document when I was ready, which took almost like 20 minutes, and ate into my presentation time. Upon opening the document from this gentleman's laptop, it froze. It did not open.
Oh man, I feel like I'm in that room with you and I'm getting goosebumps, not good ones. I'm sweating for you.
Oh my goodness me. I could not believe it. I had had the shock of realizing that there were other competitors
One.
for the same job. Two, I'm walking into a room full of more than 15 people I did not expect. Now, three, my presentation froze.
Because you asked me to transfer from my laptop, which I'm comfortable with, mind you. And now the one that's freezing is not even my laptop.
Absolutely.
But you're a Toastmaster by this time, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because we know these things happen. We know these glitches. Okay.
Absolutely. Now, you have to understand that in my profession, or at least for that particular presentation, what the client was interested in the most was to see what I was proposing, not hearing what I was proposing.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I was feeling let down already. So I took a deep breath, scraped my shoulders, and I put on my imaginary Toastmasters hat.
Yes, ma'am. I know that hat. Let's
and
go.
And I started by greeting them with confidence. At least it looked like confidence before their eyes. Then I started verbally explaining every slide descriptively to the point where they could understand me. The very project that I had done numerous times in Toastmasters. Descriptive presentation.
Come on now.
When I was done, there was an opportunity for question and answer. What was quite interesting, prior to that presentation, in my clubs, somehow I was taking on projects on question and answer. So the few weeks prior, leading up to that day, those were the projects I was just doing over and over again. Not that I was preparing for this presentation. I was now at that stage in my pathways.
Right.
So when they threw in the question and answer, I was more than ready to then make up for the first part of the presentation that had turned out to be disastrous. So when I was done, they then graciously released me. Now, let me tell you what was going on in my mind each time I opened my mouth to speak. They would look up and suddenly go down to start writing. Look up aesthetically dance that writing.
Uh-huh.
You know what that does to your nerves?
Oh man.
But
What
being,
are you writing? Look at
yes.
me. Take note. What are you writing? Anyhow, I'm sure you got to find out later. So tell us.
So I left the room and I thought that was the worst presentation that I've ever come across. Now, I had announced at home that this is what I was going to go through. So obviously, everyone at home was waiting for me. So I
Mhm.
told them all that was the worst presentation I've ever gone through. I don't even know what I was thinking I can contend against these giants. To my surprise, about a week later, I was called to be told that I had been shortlisted.
Ooh, ooh, starting with the call, that was a good surprise. And then shortlisted. I think the story still continues. Please
Yeah.
carry on.
What was then interesting was CoachBusi. I happened to come across this young man who I had had an opportunity to work with on a project for the same client, who happened to go to their offices after our presentations. So while he was there, one of the guys who was in the meeting said, "You know, that woman called Tsitsi can sell you anything. She can talk." I thought, "Oh, okay." So,
She's a Toastmaster. Mhm.
so I then realized that, oh my goodness me. So I actually nailed it based on my Toastmasters experience. When I was done, I was in awe of the journey that I had gone through over the years. I'll tell you that that was the most, should I say, expensive. The value of that project was the highest project I had ever been assigned in my whole career life. I
Wow.
could not believe it. Because, okay, eventually it moved from the presentation to being given a sample to do and also with competition to the point where I was able to knock them out. Then I'll also tell you that part of what contributed to me doing the project was the projects I've done in Toastmasters.
Mhm.
Yes.
How does it feel to be able to say, to knock them out?
Oh, yeah. Proof of feeling. I thought it was for high school. I felt like a high school girl going through that process because even after we were then supposed to go to a different site in out of town for the same client with the same company that I'd contended with. And unfortunately, they were not there this time around. So I happened to ask this project managers where this other company was, and they said to me, you booted them out. That's why they are not here." I thought,
Oh, Tsitsi, that is such an exciting story. And I can, goodness, now the same way my hands were sweating
yeah,
buckets when you were, I'm now excited about your journey with you because you can't pay people to
no,
tell these kind of stories and experiences because they're traceable to
yeah.
what happened first, what happened next, and voila, look where I am now, and I'm not done yet. That is absolutely awesome to see, and I love that. Now, I know that the listeners have one question that I have too.
Mhm.
What is a space designer? Just before I release you in a very short time, please let me know this occupation, this career of yours. What is it? I've had doctors, I've had all sorts of people on this. You are the first one who is a space designer. I've had lawyers. Space designer? Please educate me.
Right. This is interior architecture of spaces. So it's designing spaces, whether it's private homes, offices, where make it, you make them beautiful, habitable, functional. It goes beyond interior decorating, interior designing. It includes everything to do with the interior spaces, the structures, the lighting, the mechanical lighting, the natural lighting, the colors, the purpose of the space, health issues, and so on. So that's my profession, and that's what my company does.
Wow, that is awesome. I love that. That's what your company does. So you own your own company.
Yes, yes.
Lovely.
My home club is executive Toastmasters Club, but I also happen to be a member of the only advanced club in Zimbabwe, which is called Zenith.
Zenith, yes.
Yes. And I'm also a member of a bilingual Toastmasters club called Le Phoenix, the French Toastmasters Club.
Hmm.
And I am soon going to be, in fact, I'm now a member with just now in the process of putting the papers together of another bilingual Toastmasters club called Jacaranda. It's a Chinese English Toastmasters club.
Ooh. Okay. To get it right, that will be 4 clubs you're a member of.
Yes, yes, yes.
Now, I know I am absolutely gaga and crazy about Toastmasters, but I am not in 4 clubs. Tell me, when you have the opportunity of visiting any club that you want for $60, why would you go and pay 240 to be a member of 4 clubs?
Yes. So for each and every one of them, they serve a purpose for my own personal development. Of
Ooh.
course, executive is the first one, my home club that introduced me to the world of Toastmasters. Zenith has the giants of
Mhm.
Toastmasters Club. So I wanted to be sharpened so that I don't settle. There's a danger of when you arrive, you become comfortable. So I
Mhm.
want to remain in spaces where I'm challenged all the time. Most of the people who are members in Zenith are more than 5 years in Toastmasters and already seasoned this they are DTMs, Distinguished Toastmasters, and have had an opportunity to serve in cabinet before.
Come on.
So I needed to rub shoulders with such so that I grow. Now, the French, that is my desire to challenge myself from comfort.
Wow.
And
Mm-hmm.
as for the Chinese, it's more on business, but at the same time, to challenge my mind to do something that is not normal and usual and common and take my game higher in communication. So I want to be able to step in a lot of spaces and be able to switch and converse in different types of languages and communications.
Oh,
So each and every one of them serve a purpose.
Tsitsi, you are amazing. And you have just showcased the beauty of Toastmasters in a different way because this community that you're now rubbing shoulders with, that you are now moving from China to Zim to the French country speaking countries, it all has roots to your decision to become a Toastmaster. And
Absolutely.
I can see how seriously you take it by becoming a member of more than just one club. You don't have
Yes.
to do that, but you are that invested in your personal growth.
Yes, I am. I am.
You have challenged me, and I will have to see how I'm going to stretch myself further than just this podcast and further than looking around Toastmaster streets for the most interesting Toastmasters to bring to this platform, you have added a layer and a depth that I am so appreciative of. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for saying yes and for sharing your story with me and the listeners. Do you have one last word you'd like to say to them before I sign off?
Wow, thank you. Well, for me, what a privilege and honor of it has been for me to be part of this interview. I've heard good things about it. I listened to one, and to have been invited, what an honor. If you are sitting on a fence deciding whether Toastmasters is for you, sit there no more.
Come on.
Just step in and explore. Your life will never be the same thereafter. Thank you, Coach.
Wow. Thank you so much, Tsitsi. And we wish you all the best. The next time you come by or when we meet, greet me in French or in Chinese, and let's see how interesting that conversation will go. Thank you so much. And dear listeners, stay tuned in. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you haven't liked, go ahead and do that. And if you haven't shared with a Toastmaster who has not heard of Toast Talks with Coach Busi, go ahead and do that too. Until the next time with another interesting guest, Coach Busi and Toastmaster Tsitsi, we are bidding you adieu. Goodbye.
Thank you.